On recorder is great. Thank you so much. And then also love to welcome and say hi to everybody, but I don't think that's going to be possible. So could you please put your name in the chat and the organization that you're representing, or if you're representing yourself as an advocate, you can put that too, just so we have a good sense of who's in the room. We will ask you to evaluate the session and the speaker and your desire to continue to participate with the CAB2 activity. So it'd be good for you, hopefully at the end, to stay around and complete the quick evaluation for us. Hey, Jill.
Dr. Rose, I just left your table in our Mendel.
Left who?
Team. I just met your team on Mendel.
Oh, good. Oh, great. Yeah. So far, it seems to be going smoothly. I haven't gotten any emergency text messages.
Nope. Everything looks good.
Great. Glad to hear it.
You're doing an awesome job out there.
Great. Welcome, Olivia. Olivia ×2. Allison from the Wisdom Study. Glad you're here. Hi, Joyce. Getting a break from COVID for a minute today. Great. It's really filling up. Okay, one more minute and we'll start it on the 4.
You're like the teacher from Romper Room saying hi to everybody back in the day.
Well, it's part of the fun part of Zoom, right? Because in person, you can only do it one person at a time. I kind of limited. I do think there are some aspects of Zoom that I'm going to miss if we ever, start to be in person again, which the main thing is the chat, because if you keep your chat open, you'll see that a lot of the action is happening in the chat. So we will be keeping an eye on that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of get us started and get open. I just want to say welcome everybody to CAB2 ChatnChew. The reason it's called CAB2 is because we do have a community advisory board, 1, if you will. That's where we do our business meeting. CAB2 is open to the public. And the idea is we hope that if you, as you engage with CAB2, that you will invite 2 more people next time so that we can continue to grow the audience for CAB2 exponentially and make sure the information that we're sharing here gets out to as many people as possible. We know that we can't reach everybody, but we do know that personal networks can be very powerful. So if you enjoy what you see here, please invite 2 more people the next time you come. We do meet quarterly on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. So next time will be in July, and we hope that you'll stick around, as I said before, to fill out the evaluation so that we can really make sure that what we provide for you in this forum is responsive to what you have asked for. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker for today. I'm really excited. I think you guys are going to get excited and jazzed up too as you hear more from her. I want to introduce Ms. Maimah Karmo, who is the founder and CEO of the Tigerlily Foundation and a 16-year survivor of breast cancer. So big ups to that. In 2006, she was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer without having a family history and was only 32 years old. So, this is way outside of the kind of guidelines that we're given about when it's supposed to happen and how we're supposed to be checking for it. So I think it's important to just share this story so that you understand where she's coming from. But while she was undergoing the 2nd round of chemo, she made a promise to God that if she survived, she would create an organization to educate, empower, and advocate for and support young women affected by breast cancer. After her 2nd treatment, Tigerlily Foundation was born. Tigerlily provides breast health, educational empowerment, wellness, and transformational programs to young women and works to end disparities in age, stage, and the race of folks facing breast cancer. Tigerlily has launched national and global health initiatives focused on ending disparities through the #Inclusion Pledge, which was a big part of why I wanted to invite Ms. Karmo to our table with our Joint Advisory and Steering Committee. They partner with global stakeholders and basically put out a call to action to recognize health disparities as a social justice issue and to pledge to work to end disparities for Black women facing cancer in our lifetime. So I want to welcome this very inspirational speaker. Please put your questions in the chat. We will try to keep track of them and make sure that we get responses to them. Even if we go over time, then you will get those responses in an email. So without further ado, let me please hand the mic over to the dynamic Ms. Maimah Karmo.
Oh, thank you, Kim, so much. I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you all for attending. I don't know where to start. I mean, you know, first of all, I'm just thankful to be alive today, being that I was triple negative and had breast cancer that was untargeted by treatment for almost 16 years. So I'll start from the beginning of my life. I firmly believe in God, believe in, you know, how my parents raised me to be, which is, you know, when things happen in your life, you have to ask God, why is this happening to me and what can I do with it? And so I have a PowerPoint I'm going to share, but I'm going to veer off that because I don't really talk by, I don't really go by PowerPoints, but I wanted to have my talking points planned ahead of time so I could help you all be guided with my talk. I have to now find said PowerPoint, so just give me a second to find it. Show all windows, just give me a second. I have like 20,000 windows open. Okay, here we go. Like my brain. Okay, I really believe that when you have hope, everything's possible. And so I was talking about God earlier. And so I've been through a lot of things in my life. Cancer is just one of those things. I'm from Liberia, West Africa. And over my first 15 years, I escaped 3 wars in Liberia. And whenever I escaped the wars, I could run from the guns or the machetes. Came to the US at 15 years old after having survived these wars and felt like I was now in the promised land, not knowing I would get breast cancer years later. My mom is a nurse, so I really admire all that you all do to educate patients, to advocate for them, to support them, to love them, and all of that. I never knew how her nurture would propel me into this space. My mom gave me life and saved my life. She taught me the importance of breast exams at 13 years old. I barely had breasts yet, and I was embarrassed to have these little nubs on my body. But she said words to me that would save me later. She said, your body will change over time, but knowing your body is important because when it does change, you know what to look for and what to do. I thought she was crazy, but I did my breast exams every month without fail. Taking a shower one day, 31 years old, my hand ran across a lump that was not there a month later. Being that I've been doing breast exams for 18 years, her words came back to me when I asked her, Mom, how will I know if there's a bad thing or a bad lump? She said, you'll know. And so I called my mom and she said, see your doctor, your OBGYN, who got me a mammogram. The mammogram came back false negative. So they said, you don't have cancer, come back when you're 45 years old. But I said, no, I want this out of my body and I want to see a surgeon, who then told me I couldn't have breast cancer and to come back again in my 40s. So I had to push for a biopsy for over 6 months. Now, being that age the lump doubled in size in less than 6 months. So if I'd waited until my 40s, I'd be dead today. And I share this because a lot of my patients that I talk to at Tigerlily, young women and Black women, are advanced stage because they're told to wait until they're much older. And so, you know, when you do all the right things, I had access to a doctor, I had access to screening, but it all failed me. So I learned I have breast cancer and I was terrified because the lump had doubled in size. I'm like, what do I do now? And so I had to make these choices about my breast cancer care, about treatment, and about, radiation, surgery, all this in a matter of months. I thought I was going to die, and I was so terrified. And so, I really believe that when you are in a place of where you're squeezed, what comes out of you is what's inside, like an orange. And the cancer squeezed me really hard. And so I asked God, what do I do with this situation? What do I do with the fact that I have cancer, that's triple negative breast cancer? It's not targeted by treatment, and I have to just have surgery and chemotherapy, radiation, and then go live my life. What would that look like for me? And what if I die? And so when we're going through a tough thing, we have to ask ourselves, if this happens to me, who else is this going to be happening to? Who else could be affected by this challenge, right? And so I made a promise to God while in my treatment bed. I said to God, if I don't die from this, how can I serve you and make a difference that could change the world? And that became my promise to God. And so when you think about your life and, and challenges as a person, a patient, whether it's breast cancer, whatever you're dealing with, I think once you know your why, you can survive almost any kind of how. And I share this because when I laid in bed with breast cancer, it was told the average lifespan at the time, they said between 5 to 8, 9, 10 years, that's your lifespan maybe from this disease because it's not targeted by treatment. And I thought, what could I dream that's big enough that I could do to change the systems that don't work in healthcare? And so I looked at what was going on, and women were getting misdiagnosed at younger ages. They were telling us to wait till our 40s, to come back when you're older. And as a Black woman, I was young and dismissed for over 6 months. I saw my friends dying of breast cancer at disproportionate rates that were shocking. And I thought, how can I create something that's systemically going to change health disparities in breast cancer? The numbers here, you all know, they're shocking and they have to change. And so I began to look at the barriers to healthcare that you all have seen. Racism, lack of diversity in clinical trials, lack of access, lack of just women of color who look like us in healthcare and in the media. And I said, what can I do? How can I serve and make a difference in this world? And so I began going to, literally while in treatment, going to hospital centers, going to Capitol Hill, going to churches, going to wherever I could go and share my story. People would say to me, you're only a patient. You're only a patient. You're not a doctor. You're not a scientist. You're not a policymaker. What are you going to do? We know what we're doing. And I said, it's not working. And I thought to myself, there's something that God planted inside of me that is propelling me to go to these churches, schools, and to speak truth to power. And so how do I serve in what I'm doing? How could I do what is right and what is just and what is true to help other people have access to life? And people kept telling me, well, you're only one person. You're only one person. And what can one person do? And I would laugh because I believe in the power of one, that we each one have the power to make a massive change. Before I go into this next slide, the power of one to me is really important because this slide here, if you can see it, if not, I can make it larger. It shows my dream of Tigerlily when I was in treatment in bed 16 years ago. And it shows where it's evolved to in the past 16 years. And so here's where I was. If you can see my mouse, I was only a patient. And I thought, how can I affect change, affect healing and health with patients throughout the country and maybe throughout the world? My patients were about 28 to 35 years old, many metastatic patients, many Black, and who were either really late stage and or advanced stage and or metastatic breast cancer patients. How could I empower them to lead as angel advocates, to work in the community, to be empowered leaders with healthcare systems, policymakers, to be patient advocates, to work in clinical trials, to really affect the entire ecosystem of care? What could I do to build trust, transparency, and transformation? And I kept hearing the words, you're only one person, what can you do? So I had to force multiply, and I did. So the next couple of slides talk about our programs, which are really, they're really a lot of programs, but you have to dream the impossible to do the impossible. And so think about when I built this, I was 32 years old now in treatment. My ex left me during my diagnosis, so I'm now a single mother, working full-time and thinking about building this huge nirvana for cancer patients. My goal is to reach patients who are young women before they got breast cancer, reach those who are in treatment for breast cancer, and reach those who are navigating, surviving breast cancer, because that never ends. And so every program taps on reaching a patient before, during, and after breast cancer, and walking in their shoes to understand their lived experiences of what they're facing, what their fears are, what their hopes are, and how to ignite a fire in them to think about their lives being more than just cancer and giving back to the communities and where they live, work, play, and pray. Next slide. And so I talked about force multiplying earlier. The power of one is so important. Each one of you here is a leader in cancer care because you took your power of one to make a difference in this space. And so I thought, why aren't there more Black and brown patients whenever I go to San Antonio Breast, or when I go to the CAB2 Capitol Hill, or in the media, or in clinical trials? So we began to recruit Black and brown women from communities that have the highest breast cancer death rate in the country. We began to reach them through Instagram, through TikTok, through Twitter, through any means possible. So if you have any patients that you're working with who are Black patients, send them to us, please. We work with them to do this program to empower them. The Angel program is a 15-module course that gives them an understanding of breast cancer, screening, clinical trials, policymaking, whatever it is from zero to end, just understanding breast cancer. And then we say, how do you give back to the community? We put them on panels, we put them in the media, we give them chances to speak about their experiences. And then we put them back in their communities to be able to build community-based engagements to work to end disparities in breast cancer care. Any questions so far? Okay. And so in the first year, we trained 100 patients of color to become angel advocates. And then we're doubling that this year to reach more Black and brown women. And then we began to see that Black women really wanted to amplify their voices. And then the next year, the murder of Joyce Floyd happened. To be honest, as many of you, I'm sure, were like me, struck by the fact that people were committing to DE&I, committing to solidarity with their Black community. But I didn't see that they were really making tangible commitments that were going to be equate to systemic changes. I thought they were more in a sense performative in nature and not really committing to tangible change. And so we put out something called the Inclusion Pledge, which is really a big, bold statement. And we ask anybody who's touching a Black person's lifespan, Black or brown person, to make smart goal changes towards ending barriers to care. So saying you're going to hire a Black DE&I person, I don't care about that. Saying you're going to, make a pledge, I don't care about that. How will your actions equate to a Black person's life being saved? So whether you're a cancer center, radiologist, oncologist, whether your job is answering the phones, what can you do to ensure that we're not dying of cancer at disproportionate rates? We launched the Inclusion Pledge. I did it in my kitchen where I am now. And something really powerful happened. We had the pledge signed by a lot of people in very little time. We had Pfizer sign in less than a week, Merck, Lilly, Amgen, Daiichi, these huge companies, realizing the importance of hearing Black and brown patients and following our lead. I told them, I said, you guys work for us. You're here to serve the patient as our doctors. So can we help you co-create solutions and can you lead with us? And they said, yes. And then there were some things that happened that were truly magical. They asked us to partner in clinical trials. They asked us to help them create new protocols. They asked us to help them, create new marketing materials. They asked us to help them think about what they're doing wrong systemically and how to fix those things. And I would tell you, as a patient of color, a Black woman coming here as an immigrant, alone at 15 years old, being able to influence clinical trial and healthcare policy as a patient was for me tremendous. And we held these people to making smart goals, not just feel good goals, but how are they going to equate to less loss of life for Black and brown people? And the Inclusion Pledge really asks people to do one simple thing: use your privilege for power. How do you commit to certain actions that you can make within your center, with you all, any of you watching, or your business or in your personal life to change your behavior, thinking, and what you're doing to create measurable change. So you commit to some actions, certain actions, you sign the pledge, we track your goals, and we report on what you're doing to ensure that we're providing a transparent framework. We next looked at clinical trials, and again, Black women, as you know, are dying at higher rates from breast cancer and other cancers. Across the spectrum, we're dying, and it's no longer acceptable. So we created a clinical trial program to hold people accountable to engaging patients in making measurable change. And so we work with pharma to really look at how are their trials being designed? You know, are they equitably being designed by Black and Brown patients? Are there metrics towards diversity and inclusion? So we've been working with pharma to do this, and it's been really growing in impact. The next thing we saw was that patients were getting involved in clinical trials to drive them. We have monthly conversations. We have clinical trial patient experts, which they love doing this. We help to drive trials in communities of color as well. And then we launched a really powerful tool that you would love, I'm sure, called the Barrier Toolkits. You know, we discuss problems a lot. We talk about, you know, lack of equity in terms of health, you know, health access, financial barriers, geographical barriers, money, literacy, all these things. But how do we put the power in the patient's hands? So we made these toolkits that are created really for, by, and with Black and Brown patients. We had patients in a cohort. We asked them, what are the things that you found that helped you during your breast cancer journey or that hindered your progress? What could have cost you your loss of life? And we asked people who are metastatic patients as well, like, what are the things you've known to do better so you may not be metastatic? I have a patient that her story is so tragic that I share it a lot because it shows you how having access and lack of access can change your life. So my tumor, I found it and got diagnosed within 6 months, and I'm here 16 years later. She found her tumor at 25 years old, was denied treatment and screening for 6 years until her nipple was bleeding, a bleeding nipple. And then she was treated, then she was screened for breast cancer, at which point she's metastatic. That's not acceptable. And so we have patients who are early stage and late stage be involved in the process. And we ask them, what are the barriers you're facing in your entire life healthcare journey and or breast cancer journey? And so the toolkits go over everything about literacy, financial barriers, any kind of access issues, to put these tools in patients' hands to be able to work to end barriers for themselves as empowered patient advocates. Excuse me, need some water. We looked at next the importance of policy change. So when I first began my breast cancer journey, I went on Capitol Hill and began to ask lawmakers, how do we create equitable change if we're not at the table? You know, there's some guidance coming out with the FDA that came out last week that we didn't know about till it came out in my email box. That's not acceptable either. So how do we create guidance, recommendations, and policies that we're involved in? And so we launched our Policy Center of Excellence to really help patients of color as we built this force multiplier army of angels to really get engaged and use their voices for change on the local level and federal level. And that launched last month. I think it's really important, as I noted, that patients shouldn't just be asked to get through cancer. That's not a good enough answer. I want to live my life, but I want to also be able to thrive after breast cancer. And so I ask people all the time, what is your job in healthcare? I want to help the patient get through, but I want to help her to be inspired as a leader, and walk beside her as a partner to ensure equity and access for all. And so whenever I leave this earth, I'll be able to say, my job was well done. And so I love what I do. It's so important to me because I had no idea the power I had as a human being to make a difference in this world. I was a single mother laying in a bed with breast cancer and told that I might die. In that place of facing potential death, I asked God, how do I serve? And now Tigerlily is a 16-year-old national and growing global breast cancer organization. And so I ask all of you, how do you use your privilege for power? How do you use your gifts and talents to challenge the status quo? You know, it can be scary. You know, I'm not a doctor or a scientist or a researcher, but I keep asking everybody I meet, well, why is this done that way? Can we do it better? What if it's wrong? How do we change what we've been doing historically to make sure that we have a better future for our kids and loved ones. And so, you know, I want you to all, you know, join the Angel Advocacy Program, have your patients join, take our inclusion pledge. And really, I want to push the status quo. I want to make sure that it's not an option to be non-racist. You have to change how you're thinking to make things different for the next generation. And so thanks for having me here today. I'm happy to have presented. I'd love to answer any questions you may have and love to partner with any and all of you to work towards creating health equity in our lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your story is so amazing, and what you've created out of each aspect of it, and seeing other people, you know, potentially in the same places where you have been, I think is just incredible and amazing. And of course, I'm over here thinking, and please, everybody, go ahead and put questions in the chat. My first thought went to the fact that our community advisory board is really focused right now on training and navigation. That is like #1 priority. Has been on the list for a while. We're finally moving to take action around that. And that said, the Friends of Frank, which is the subcommittee of the CAB committee, the Men's Health Committee, committee. But the Friends of Frank is like the action arm for the Men's Health Committee. And one of the things that they are doing already is sort of raising advocates, you know, organically. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to extrapolate the training that you have, which I know is kind of focused on breast cancer, but for men to be advocates,
Yes.
and particularly Black men, because same issues, right? When you walk in, how are you regarded? So whatever comes out of your mouth may completely be ignored. And so, yeah, can you?
Yes, we're happy to. So I happen to have breast cancer, but I think the mission that God gave me is bigger than just one disease state. I think that we're all seeing that Black people are facing a disproportionately amount of health equity issues across the board. So the content we created was to be at a point taken to use for any disease state or any male, female, you know, sexual state, whatever we need to do with it. So if you need help with this for men, we can help with that too. We can be a partner and change that. If you want to create it for TPQ populations, we can happy to help with that. We actually are even growing to do this globally. We're creating a global advocacy toolkit because in Europe is way worse than this. They don't get treatments for sometimes 5 years when they're on the market here in the US. So we want to be able to take what we have, share, give, donate, support. So whoever's on this call that I can't see, I only see 6 faces. Please contact me. We're happy to give you the toolkit. Well, not give it to you only, but just work with you to curate it for your population. Man, woman, like whatever you need, just let me know.
Do others have questions? I don't know, Michael Shaw, if you want to comment at all about what Men's Health Committee is doing. And then I see a comment from Amy. Go ahead, Michael, and then we'll get Amy.
So I was just writing a comment in a chat to, first of all, amazing presentation, amazing journey. And my sister, we need to partner. So as Kim said, we've been working on navigation, how to have a man's voice, particularly around prostate cancer, how to impact institutions with an African-American presence, voice, how to make this work for our community as it relates to cancer disparities in health. And we've moved from survival to thriving. So we got a partnership.
I would love that.
I'm the person you can't see.
I can see you.
That needs to connect with you, my sister. So we will make that happen. There will be on the 25th of June a prostate symposium. You get a chance to see how the Friends of Frank have begun to shape this voice of advocacy, particularly within UCSF. And then we have a whole conversation about how to sustain this voice outside of these committees, but really embedded in the community, as you have with Tigerlily. So done. Thank you, Kim.
No, thank you. I would love to. I mean, I remember going to different conferences and just thinking like, I think people don't take patients as seriously as they don't think that we know or we can, we have a lot of power, but just imagine the power of naivete, the power of dreaming the impossible, the power of knowing that, you guys have been doing this for a long time and all of you here are innovators, but I came with a fresh perspective. And the beauty in what we do is now we train these Black women who are coming in, who are learning about what to ask about, BRCA testing, about other screening, about, telling the doctors, no, that's wrong, I'm going to fire you or hire a new person. And they're having different outcomes. So imagine having 1,000 patient advocates trained in a year or 10,000 patients advocates trained, partnering with all the different NCI centers, working on clinical trials, advising the FDA and saying, no, we won't accept the status quo any longer. And we're not ashamed. We don't have any skin in the game except our lives, right? They're brave, they're fearless. And so we use us to be a part of the change. We're having a Hill Day in a week to go on Capitol Hill and start to work on some policy around survivorship and health equity. So please attend and share with your networks if you can. But the power in engaging us is we're not restrained by anything. We have nothing to lose except our lives. And we're training more like me to be brave and fearless warriors when it comes to advocating for themselves. And we're at a time in our lives where we've seen the hurt that hate can cause and racism can cause. And we can't just be comfortable or casual. We have to disrupt the status quo, of course, with love, but it must be disrupted. And so Tigerlily is happy to be a part of your committees, boards. We have these patients that want to be activated. Let me know how we can help you all be a part of this change.
So man, imagine Black and brown men and women having conversations about cancer, where we're actually talking about bleeding nipples and we're talking about sexual dysfunctioning with each other, not with doctors, but with each other. That we're showing up at the doctor's office together. Just imagine within the African-American community, that conversation of, women have this conversation from birth about about fertility and menstrual cycles. And men never talk about the processes they go through other than to build them up. Men and women very seldom, particularly, I'm going to speak from an African-American perspective, we don't talk to each other about these issues. We actually have to go to institutions to bridge that conversation. Imagine us having that as a conversation in our own tables, in our own bedrooms.
That's the dream of dismantling status quo, right? Because that's not what we see now.
Right.
So I want to catch Amy had a comment in the chat, and then let's get Z because she's got her hand up, and then Lisa Teeler had a question in the chat as well. So we get to that next. Amy.
Thank you, Dr. Rhodes. I'm not feeling well today. I'm sorry that I'm not on camera, but I am here and present. Thank you so much for your presentation and for sharing your personal journey with us. We have a very large sister-to-sister program that serves African-American women all through Alameda and Contra Costa County. We have a Richmond group as well as a Berkeley group. And I just think that we need to get this information in front of them. If you're able to come speak to the group, I think that would be incredibly important to them. But again, I want to share that I'm grateful that you're here today, and we definitely want to share this information with all of the women that we are supporting through our program.
Thank you, Amy. Happy to.
Okay, I've got your email. Thank you.
Great. And also just for CAB members, just to know that Maimah is now and Tigerlily are represented on our joint advisory, our steering committee. So we are engaged in an ongoing way. So that's Amy leads Women's Cancer Resource Center. I don't know if you already said that, Amy, I'm sorry, but she is also one of our standing CAB members. So you'll be connected. Z, I see your hand up, and then we'll go to Lisa and then Star.
Hi. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm not sure. I'm just going to call you Miss Karmo because I don't want to mispronounce your first name.
Call me MK too.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to call you Blessing. How about that? How about I just call you
Aw,
Courageous? How about
I
I call you
received
all
that
that,
with all
right?
my heart.
As a person that loves God, and I struggle a lot because sometimes the anger overtakes me, I just want to acknowledge your spirituality and the strength within it, and to thank you for grounding it, because oftentimes being a community of color, even our spiritual selves aren't recognized or supported in the journey. So I want to call that out. And I also just want to take this moment to thank you, to thank Dr. Rhodes, and to thank all those here for elevating the status of trusted messenger and
Mhm.
investing into the cultivation of trusted and empowered leadership. I personally have a problem sometimes because I feel like there's no elevation or investment beyond our status as a messenger. And I think that inadvertently contributes to disparities because our voices, we are giving a place and not the sustained creation of space that will allow us to take that voice and that experience and that subject matter expertise to the level that it deserves to be. So I just want to thank you and acknowledge you all for doing that, because that is part of the disparity.
It sure is.
Right? So I'm looking forward to partnering with you. I work at a safety net integrated hospital system, and we need to be empowered to.
I really thank you for saying that, Z, because
Thank you.
I thank you for saying that. I received that blessing and that responsibility, right? And the privilege that I'm here is that I get to be and to share my story. People ask me all the time, my daughter asked me one time, Mommy, you tell your story all the time. You don't get tired of telling your story? And I say, no, but if I save one person's life by hearing that story, I will go on. My daughter is now 19 years old, and she's one of my biggest supporters. But I will tell you that the system is not set up to empower advocates either. I began this work as a single mother, working a full-time job, which I quit to begin to do this work even more consistently. Between the years of 2008 or 9 rather, and 2019, I worked between 7 to 10 contracts as a consultant to be able to afford to pay my bills and fund my organization. I wasn't getting money. Okay, people would give me, 1,000 here, 500 here, a couple thousand there. I couldn't sustain myself. So imagine and looking back now, I don't know how I made it except for God. Who works a 50-hour, 60-hour, 80-hour a week job for a job, then runs a foundation that you're building, single parents a child that has health issues, and has a house and family and your own health. And I was triple negative. So at some point I was going to quit. I said, well, I'm building this thing that's going to help all these people and help break down these systems, but I can't sustain this if I'm working 160, whatever the case, hours a week, have no funding, and nobody wants to hear me except say, good job, well done. I don't want to pat on the head. Give me some money. Give me some way to sustain what I'm doing. Give me a platform to elevate my voice, to have other Black women see what's possible. So I began to challenge people and say, you just gave these people $10 million. Can I have $500,000? A quarter? Can I have one? Because if I don't exist, people don't know if I'm not possible, they don't know if they're possible. And I would tell you that when I talk to these Black patient advocates who meet me and talk to me and get to come and hold my hand, they've never seen a Black patient with breast cancer, or one who's metastatic, or one who's lived 16 years and or built a national organization. They don't know what's freaking possible. So it's not only a matter of just like saying, oh, come tell your story. That's important, but how will you ensure that what I'm building sustains to pass on to other people who don't get access, generations to come? But also, how are the patients in safety net hospitals who don't know what advocacy is, who are just trying to go from hand to mouth? I was once there as an immigrant. We had 10 people in one small apartment. We had to get food from God knows where. We had no insurance. I'd been through every single disparity you could imagine. And so when you're living hand to mouth like that, you don't know the power of your voice making a difference. So my heart desires to give you all what you need for your patients, to give them that, here's what's possible, and here's the tools you need to be able to put in place to ensure that your voice is heard, and you have a better life and outcome.
So thank
Yeah.
you so much for that. And Z will be around with us also as one of our community ambassadors. So I'm really
Awesome.
excited to welcome her, to also bring her experience in so many different domains that you talked about, touching like the legal system and insurance, and really navigating sort of deep into, we talk about the social determinants as transportation. It's more than that. And so we look forward, Z, to having you also join our team. Miss Lisa Teeler, and then Star had her hand up, and then Tao, I saw your hand was up, so I'm going to ask you if you still want to comment. We'd love to hear from you. Lisa?
Thank you, Dr. Rhodes. Thank you, MK, for your awesome journey, sharing that with all of us. And my question is really around when you talk about disruption and challenging the status quo. How did you navigate those in power who see you as a threat and start building up resistance against your work because they're pretty comfortable with keeping things as they are? And as a woman of color, as a Black woman, how did you navigate that? What specific tools or tips that you can provide for us that are doing this work, not only just on the ground, but also being in the rooms and at the table where we're not represented? So thank you.
No, that question's a really deep question for me. I go back to my spirituality, and I'll say there are two things I'll share about my spirituality and how that helped me, but also why the work helped me, the people I was meeting. So, if you're a spiritual warrior, I felt like I was like David and Goliath, right? Because here I am, this one person with a slingshot. I don't want to kill them. I don't want to hurt them, but I want to be able to aim to get them to see me and hear me and help my people, right? So how could I do that? And so it was hard because wherever I aimed, there was like, okay, they're so big, I couldn't get through the systems. I couldn't get through to them. And then I began to think about it less as an attack. I'm attacking and trying to get their attention. But how do I break the bread I have, the 2 loaves I have, and the water, and feed the people that I can touch to empower them? So I began to change how I saw what I was doing. Because at first I was angry too, right? Like Z was. I'm like, what the heck's going on? How can I change this? I want to be able to, get through these to them, right? But I realized the power isn't in them. The power really is in us. The perception is the power is in them. And so when you change the fact that we've been told all these years that these are this is a go-to, they're the higher ups, they're the ones that are systems. Who makes up systems? People do. And every system I went to, there was at least one person who said, I work here, but I know it's wrong. Okay? And so it was me going, no, I have the power. I'm a child of God. I know what I was born to do. I'm going to take my slingshot and send a one of love, right? But I'm going to also empower women who are next to me and build them up to know they can have a voice as well. So if it's just me coming along, that's one thing. But if there's an army behind me and beside me, different scenario altogether. And then I began to realize, again, like I said, the power is, I have the power. And so I would find allies in these organizations and say, well, I know we had that big town hall. People look really serious and scared, but I saw your face, or I saw your face, and how can I work with you to help me get through that, to get up the chain? So I would find an ally who I knew was invested in patient care, and they would work things up the system for me over time. And I say to them, if you really want to help, you have a time-bound goal. People are dying. I don't have time to wait. And so that's kind of how I did it. But also I called people out. I said, you can't tell me that you're going to give 10 million here, 5 million there, but is the money going towards ending a barrier or making yourself look good? So I'm very well known for embarrassing people on calls by asking these tough questions where I just say, yeah, I heard what you said, but I didn't see what you did. I didn't see who was impacting. And it wasn't calling them out in a bad way. It's just saying that your thinking has to change. Your thinking of just throwing money at people is not going to make it work. How do you invest in a way where just giving one group just money is not enough? What are the barriers that exist? And how can you invest your money in making those barriers go away? And then we also began, it's the hardest thing for me has been to, as a Black person, you all know this, telling your story over and over again, talking about what you faced in healthcare, disparities. It's hard to go through the pain that we faced, whether in healthcare or not, but making them see like what they don't see. They don't know what some people know and some just don't know. So just talking about it and making them accountable to doing the right thing. And I think as you reach one person, they reach 10,000 people. So like when we work with Pfizer and Amgen and Merck and Lilly, when we reach the 1 or 2 or 5 people, then they reach the masses. And then we got them to look at how they were changing their advocacy engagement, clinical trial engagement, protocol design, all those things. So it just kind of was one thing at a time. And there's no easy way. I spent, Lizzie, who's on the back end for my team, knows me. I spent hours having calls with people, hours just talking about their innate racism or lack of understanding about our culture and how they could change that. So it takes time, but I'm happy to share with you. We just finished doing an inclusion pledge playbook for pharma, and we want to do one with institutions as well, and advocacy groups and any other sectors that impact the life of Black and Brown women.
Thank
But
you.
happy to talk with you all directly or indirectly.
Great. Thank you so much. That was a message I needed to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So speaking of connecting with you directly or indirectly, the evaluation link is in the chat. Please click the link that's in there because it gives you an opportunity to express your desire to be connected with Ms. Karmo, and we will facilitate that through the office. So please be sure to fill it out because that's probably the easiest way to ensure that you get connected. I do also want to point out that there are a number of links that have been put in the chat about some of the resources that were discussed today. We'll repeat those into the chat again in case you missed them. The way to capture those links is to click on them now. It'll open a window in your browser, so you'll have it open even after we close out this Zoom meeting. So please pay close attention to what's being put into the chat. And next we're going to take Star.
Miss Karmo, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story with us. This is my second time having the pleasure of hearing you speak. I was so elated. I have to share this because I just started this work. I've been doing it almost a year now. And it was in my neighborhood that I'm working in my own personal neighborhood, and cancer is a really big issue in this neighborhood. It's we're a really high risk. There's a high number of African-American people who have cancer in this particular neighborhood. So working in my neighborhood, I thought would be a breeze because I know everyone. But the barrier that I faced was no one wants to talk about it. And no one wants to share. There's walls up. So it was really challenging coming into this work. And I'm like, how am I going to get people to talk to me? And how can I advocate for them if they don't even want to talk to me? And it wasn't, and I was about to give up. And I was at home sick one day and I didn't go to work, but I still logged on to your Zoom meeting with all these wonderful women, and it empowered me. The meeting was so powerful just to hear you all share so much about wanting to help another sister get through the journey. And I was touched that day, and I was empowered that day. I'm telling you, I was sitting at home with a wrap on my head. I did not want to be seen on camera, but you guys forced me to come on camera and share so much. You guys shared so much with me that I want to be my sister's keeper. And I want to help people through this process and through this journey. And it has been so enlightening for me since I had that meeting with you ladies. And just hearing you today reiterate on what you talked about in that first meeting, and to hear you still fighting for change and, so passionately. I appreciate you, and I thank you for sharing your work and continuing to do this work, and I would love to partner with you on continuing to break down these barriers, because there are serious barriers to getting this cancer thing under control. That's all I could say about, yeah, I'm finding all the barriers, trust me. But I thank you, and you are making a difference, and keep talking, keep sharing. You are doing a wonderful job. I just had to share that you guys really empowered me. So
That's a blessing to me. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to serve, you know.
Thank
and
you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for sharing that. One of the things I didn't mention that we have a safe space conversation series for patients as well, because, you know, Black women and men have been through so much in the healthcare system that we don't often want to share publicly. And so we have a conversation series. The first version is called No More Disparities, where we share a barrier that patients are facing. And the allies who are non-Black can watch, but they can't speak. It's our turn to be able to voice what we feel. They can watch and learn. Also, as an ally, I've had people who are white say, "Oh my God, I feel horrible. I didn't know that that really happened. I didn't know that I did that." So it's a chance to give our patients to be able to share authentically and feel safe to speak. And it's not recorded, so that they can share that intimately in a sacred space. And then after a couple of weeks, we have the next part called Pull Up a Seat, where we asked our allies to pull up a seat and come and work with us to co-create solutions for that problem. So that's what Star was sharing. We do that every other month, I believe, and we'd love to have you be involved. And the cool thing is, you literally have a built-in ad board of Black and brown patients to come to, listen to, learn from, and be empowered, and they can help you figure out ways to co-create and or partner with you as well.
Love that.
Thank you, Star. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think Tao had her hand up, and then Juanita, I see Juanita's hand is up. So I'm going to go to Tao. The evaluation link is in the chat. Please fill out the evaluation link. Let us know what you're wanting to hear about in these sessions, and also give us feedback on the speaker and the content. Go ahead, Tao.
Thank you, Dr. Rhodes. Talofa MK, you know, as a woman of faith, God is good all the time. And so hearing you, you know, is such a blessing for all of us as Pacific Islanders. We have been struggling on all those barriers you mentioned, been there, you know. I lost my mother when I was 6 years old. And so the struggles throughout and getting mammograms because, you know, I was at risk. I've been told throughout all my life. But to think about a lot of our communities who don't have a voice and who lack the resources and the know-hows and the education. And so I want to say thank you so much. And I also saw the response to working with our Pacific Islander. We're happy to begin with our first Pacific Islander health ministry of 13 churches. So those, we have some on the call today. So I'm very happy that they're on with this, but we just want to say how grateful we are to hear your story and to be the champion. You own your space, girl. So, and we witnessing that, and we are just so proud and know that we have someone on our side. And I also want to echo Michael Shaw with our men's health. I know June is coming up, men's health, and that is also something that we're struggling with our men. But we did have an elder who had breast cancer. He's male, Uncle Kaivi. And, you know, eventually he passed, but he was such an advocate on breast cancer for men, because men do get breast cancer, and that has not been in the conversation as much. But he was the first case that I've witnessed, and so I think the question is just for this conversation here. My question, Dr. Rhodes, is more about men's breast cancer, you know, in these conversations. But for me, we just want to say we're grateful, and we want to thank you for your time and for sharing all of those rich information. And for that, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless you all. And We are doing some faith-based work as well. So if any of you do work with faith-based organizations, let me know. I wanted to mention that we have a series we launched called Breathe TV. It's a patient-driven, I hosted conversation series where it's on Facebook right now. But we do Facebook Lives, but it could be in anyone's hospital center on the screen. It's a free program. We have over 30 episodes. So it talks about what patients face. It's not scripted. It's all about patients facing whatever disparities, overcoming them, what they didn't know, what they knew. So we're happy to share that as a resource for all of you guys. And all this stuff we're sharing with you is free to patients and caregivers and navigators and healthcare providers and healthcare systems. I think Juanita had her hand up.
I think that's
Oh, yeah.
Juanita is going to be our last comment. Please fill out the evaluation. It gives you an opportunity to request to be connected with Tigerlily, which we will obviously facilitate. So go ahead, Juanita.
I just want to say, MK, I am just so overwhelmed listening to your testimony because you put God first. I'm a 2-time breast cancer survivor. And God gave me that choice to work to get cancer, work with organizations, but it was so hard for me to do it and to get connected with the right people. I do work with a faith-based group at my church, which I'm going to love to connect with you. And then, of course, I don't know, Dr. Rowe, if I can mention, I work with another program, but the irony with you, I am so happy a Black sister going out, getting her own funds, getting her own, as they say, whatever money is out there, that you're able to get it. And you're getting it, not someone else is getting it for you, but you as a Black person is speaking and getting these opportunities. Where that way you cut out the middle person who really don't have your best interest in what they're doing, but you kind of tag along because as they make it sound, you're getting a grant, you're getting it funded, but is it really helping us? So I'm glad to see, and I'm understanding at this time and date, I see you, Dr. Rowe, you know where I'm at. You know exactly where I'm at. So I could not resist to tell you, I was just so proud of you, just so proud of you. And I will be connecting with you. Because
I would love that.
Know you have our best interests. And that's all I'm going to say, Dr.
I really appreciate that. To be honest, you know, it was really hard. It's like it was like having an elephant on your back. Yeah. And you're on roller skates trying to get up a mountain and someone's pushing you down. And and then when I finally got some money offered to me, the money came with stipulations. And I said, well, no, I don't work like that. God feeds me. So if you want to help my patients, here's what I want to do. Can you support that? And I held them accountable to that. And I said, if you guys don't want to fund me, I'm gonna put you on blast. You come to me to help my patients, but it's for your own good. Right. So what I did was I really work with pharma, which they're amazing partners, where I'll say, I have an idea. What do you think about the idea? You like it? You don't like it? And they'll say, let's talk about this. And we brainstorm, but the program supports the patients, not the other way around. So it's become a great partnership. But if someone comes to me with money and I think the money is bad money, or it's to be able to manipulate me or get me to do what they want, I say no, I don't say thank you. No and goodbye. So when we got in funding, which we're getting more now, it helps the patients directly. And it's, when I talked about heart in the beginning of the presentation, we're all about heart and transparency and truth. So the money is really coming from a good place, because energy is everything, right? Energy is everything. Right. So where it comes from good, it goes to good, and it does good in the community. And that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
I am just honored. And
thank you so much.
Definitely.
So we are at time, and which is good. So Juanita, I don't have to put anything on blast. I have also been in, but not of what you're talking about right now. Yes. Just remember, you are in it, but not of it. And so there are opportunities to make change, driven by the right energy.
Thank
So
you.
I want to thank everybody for being here. I think we put the link in the chat one more time. We'll leave this space open. So if you want to grab that link right now and open your browser, please give us feedback. I want to thank our speaker, Ms. Maimah Karmo, so dynamic, so inspirational. And we will be circling back to you to send you the link to this video in case you want to share it. But also I've captured a lot of the links that were shared, especially from San Mateo County. If women down there need to get screened, we got that link for you. We've got all the Tigerlily links that were shared, and we'll share those out widely. And then for those of you who indicate on your evaluation that you want to be connected, we will facilitate that connection. So thank you again for being here. Please let us know what you want to see next, and please invite 2 people. There's a reason there's a 2, it's CAB2, invite 2 people. We want to grow exponentially and make sure that as many people as possible get this important information as we can. So have a great day. Thanks for joining us. And someday we will be chewing together while we chat. But for now, enjoy your lunch.
When